He was wealthy, powerful, untouchable, and on this day he was about to make a choice that would change everything. The yacht glided across the turquoise waters, the sun reflecting off its polished decks, and on board, a bride laughed, thinking this was the happiest moment of her life. But in a single heartbeat, her world would shatter. A push, a scream, a splash into the cold, endless ocean. The man she trusted with her heart had betrayed her in the most shocking way imaginable. And yet, this is only the beginning. Because what he didn't know is that karma doesn't wait. And sometimes, the universe has a way of making the guilty pay in ways they never expected. As this story unfolds, I want you to stay close, because every glance, every whispered word, every hidden motive matters. This isn't just a story of a bride and a groom. It's a story of trust broken, danger lurking in luxury, and a twist of fate that will shock you to your core. And before we go any further, I want to take a moment. If you enjoy uncovering shocking true crime stories like this one, make sure to subscribe to True Crime Mysteries, hit that notification bell, and share this video so no one misses a single shocking story. Now, I want to hear from you. Where are you watching from right now? Drop your city in the comments below. And if you believe that no matter how wealthy or powerful someone is, karma will always catch up with them, type Amen in the comments. Let's see how many of you agree before we dive into this chilling tale. Imagine yourself on that yacht. The sun is shining, the waves are calm, and then, suddenly your world is turned upside down. Could you have survived? Could you have expected what came next? Stay with me because in the next minute, you will see how a perfect honeymoon spiraled into a nightmare, how betrayal struck in the most luxurious setting imaginable, and how justice, in the form of karma, would arrive when no one expected it. By the time this story ends, you'll be left asking yourself, how far would someone go for power, and how far would fate go to make them pay? Before that fateful moment on the yacht, life seemed perfect, at least on the surface. The bride, young, radiant, full of hope, had dreamed of this wedding for years. Every detail had been planned to perfection. The sparkling gowns, the towering floral arrangements, the elegant reception hall, and the guests who had traveled across continents to witness their union. And then there was the groom. Wealthy beyond imagination, powerful, and commanding respect wherever he went. He moved through life with confidence, a man who was used to getting what he wanted. To the world he was charming, successful, and devoted. But beneath the polished veneer, there were cracks, small, almost imperceptible signs that all was not as it seemed. Family and friends whispered. Some called it his pride, others called it control. There were subtle tensions during the wedding, a hand that lingered too long, a sharp word hidden behind a smile, glances that spoke of frustration and impatience. The bride, caught up in the whirlwind of luxury and romance, noticed little. She had dreamed of love and she trusted him completely. The honeymoon was meant to be the ultimate celebration, a private yacht gliding over turquoise waters, the sun casting golden reflections on its decks, and the gentle waves below. But even in paradise, small hints of danger began to emerge. Crew members noticed the groom's restlessness, his need to control every detail, every moment. He insisted on privacy, isolated the bride subtly, and made small demands that seemed harmless at first, but they were all part of a pattern. Now, imagine yourself in her shoes, walking through the yacht's polished halls, the warm sun on your face, the gentle breeze in your hair. Every smile feels real, every touch feels safe. Yet in the corners of your mind, a tiny unease begins to grow. Something isn't right, a feeling so slight, yet impossible to ignore. And I want to ask you again, where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments. And if you've ever had a gut feeling that something was off in your life, type red flag below. Let's see how many of you know that uneasy feeling before disaster strikes. These small moments, the unspoken words, the fleeting glances, the tension hidden behind laughter, would all matter when the unimaginable happened. Every choice, every action, Every glance would lead to the moment that changed everything on that yacht. Stay with me because in the next segment, you will see how the honeymoon, the luxury, and the romance spiraled into the first signs of betrayal, small moments that would soon become terrifyingly clear. The honeymoon began like a dream. The yacht cut through the calm, turquoise waters, its decks gleaming in the sunlight, reflecting the promise of romance and adventure. The bride laughed freely, savoring every moment. The soft ocean breeze, the golden glow of the sunset, the gentle clinking of champagne glasses. Everything felt perfect, untouched by the shadow that was slowly creeping closer. But paradise has a way of hiding cracks beneath its surface. The groom, always a man of control, began to show subtle signs of unease. A sharp glance when a crew member approached too closely. A whispered command, disguised as a suggestion, that the bride found slightly unsettling. Each little moment seemed insignificant on its own, but together they created a pattern. A pattern that no one could ignore once it was too late. The bride, caught in the joy of the honeymoon, dismissed the unease. Perhaps it was nerves. Perhaps it was just the stress of the wedding. But the crew, those who had worked on yachts for years, noticed. They exchanged quiet glances, small signals that something wasn't right. The groom's insistence on privacy, his subtle isolation of the bride, the tension that flickered in his eyes, all foreshadowed a storm that would soon erupt. As the days passed, small arguments began to surface. Nothing that outsiders could notice, nothing that seemed dangerous, but enough to plant seeds of fear. Words said with a sharp edge, hands that lingered too long, a tone that suggested impatience. And then there were the secrets. Locked doors, whispered phone calls, sudden changes in mood. Imagine yourself walking these polished decks, the sun warming your skin, the waves below, the horizon stretching endlessly. You feel safe, but a tiny knot of doubt begins to form in your stomach. Something isn't right. Your instincts tell you to pay attention, and yet the illusion of luxury and love keeps you from seeing the danger that is closing in. And here's where I want you to get involved. Have you ever ignored a gut feeling because everything else looked perfect? Comment yes or no below. Let's see how many of you have been in a situation where everything seemed fine, but something deep down told you otherwise. These moments of tension, subtle as they were preparing everyone on that yacht for the unimaginable. Because soon the facade of paradise would shatter. The groom's carefully controlled demeanor, his hidden anger and jealousy, would erupt in a moment that no one on that yacht, not the bride, not the crew, not even the witnesses, would ever forget. Stay with me because in the next segment you will witness the first truly terrifying signs of betrayal. The moment when paradise begins to twist into a nightmare, and the bride realizes that the man she trusted could be the very person who might destroy her. The sun had begun its slow descent, casting golden streaks across the calm ocean. The bride laughed, leaning against the polished railing of the yacht, thinking this was the most perfect day of her life. But beneath the groom's calm exterior, a storm had been brewing, silent, calculated, and deadly. In a single moment, the illusion of paradise shattered. The groom, a man of wealth, power, and control, made a decision that would haunt everyone on that yacht forever. A push, sudden, deliberate, shocking. The bride screamed, the sound slicing through the warm air, and she fell into the cold, endless waves below. Chaos erupted. Crew members rushed forward, their faces masks of panic. Hands reached, arms stretched, voices shouted instructions. But the moment had already passed. The bride struggled in the ocean, fighting the waves, the shock, and the disbelief of what had just happened. And all the while, the groom's eyes, cold, calculating, almost detached, watched it unfold. Imagine being there. The waves crashing around you, the horizon stretching endlessly, the yacht looming above like a world that suddenly turned hostile. Could you survive? Could you have anticipated this betrayal from someone you trusted completely? And here's where I want you to get involved. Type survive in the comments if you think you could make it through something like this. And if you're already shouting at your screen, asking how someone could do such a thing. Comment, unbelievable. Let's see how many of you are shocked by this act of betrayal. But the story doesn't end there. Because in true karma fashion, what the groom didn't realize was that this act would set in motion a chain of events he could never control. Witnesses, evidence, and the relentless hand of fate were already moving toward him, a reckoning he thought he could escape. Every decision, every choice, every subtle action that had seemed insignificant during their honeymoon now mattered. From whispers among the crew, to hidden cameras on the yacht, to the reactions of the bride in the water, everything was conspiring to reveal the truth. And soon, the consequences of the groom's arrogance and cruelty would begin to unfold in ways no one expected. Stay with me because in the next segment, you will see how the bride struggles to survive, how the crew and authorities respond, and how the first signs of karma begin to take shape. This is the moment when paradise becomes a nightmare, and the path to justice begins. The waves had barely settled when the aftermath began to unfold. The bride, soaked, shaken but alive, had been pulled from the cold ocean by the yacht crew. Her body trembled, not just from the water, but from the shock of realizing the man she had trusted with her heart had tried to destroy her. Panic spread quickly. The crew exchanged hurried whispers, glances of disbelief and fear. Phones were raised, calls made. Authorities were alerted, Coast Guard teams mobilized, and news of the incident began to ripple outwards. The luxurious honeymoon that had promised joy had transformed into a scene of chaos, fear, and impending consequences. And the groom? His confidence, so carefully maintained, began to falter. Every glance now carried tension, every word a careful calculation. He attempted to explain, to justify, to downplay the events, but the evidence was growing. Witness accounts, security footage, the bride's own recollection, all pointed to his guilt. Imagine being in that moment, watching the unraveling of someone who once seemed untouchable. How quickly power and wealth can crumble under the weight of truth. And here's where I want you to get involved. Type justice in the comments if you believe that no matter how powerful someone is, the truth will always find a way. But the story doesn't end with the bride's survival. Karma had already begun to stir. The first hints appeared in unexpected ways. A crew member who had quietly observed the groom's aggression, a video recording that could not be erased, a simple mistake that would eventually expose the truth. Every arrogant action the groom had taken during the wedding and honeymoon was now a thread in the web that would trap him. The media caught wind of the story, spreading it like wildfire. Headlines hinted at betrayal, danger, and scandal. The public watched, fascinated and horrified, as the life of a man who had believed himself untouchable began to unravel. And as the investigation deepened, small victories for the bride and glimpses of justice appeared. The first signs that the universe in its own time was beginning to set things right. Stay with me because in the next segment, you will witness the unfolding of karma in real time. How the groom's actions backfire, how the law and witnesses close in, and how the bride begins to reclaim not only her safety but her life. This is the turning point, the moment when the tables start to turn. The walls of privilege and power that the groom had built around himself began to crumble, piece by piece. Every arrogant move, every calculated deception, every attempt to hide the truth, all of it was unraveling. The very yacht that had been a symbol of luxury and control now felt like a prison, a stage for the consequences he could no longer escape. The authorities, armed with evidence, testimonies, and the bride's own harrowing account, moved with precision. Arrests, interrogations, and legal actions began to take shape. The public watched in shock, captivated by the downfall of a man who had once seemed untouchable. And karma was not subtle. It appeared in every small detail. A witness who had silently observed the groom's aggression came forward. A recording surfaced that left no room for denial. A single mistake, one that he had thought insignificant, became the chain that bound him to the justice he had so long evaded. The bride, once terrified and vulnerable, now began to reclaim her life. Her courage, her resilience, and her refusal to be silenced became the driving force that exposed the truth. And as the groom faced the consequences of his actions, the universe seemed to whisper a simple truth. No amount of wealth or power can protect someone from the consequences of cruelty. Imagine the relief she must have felt, the weight lifting as justice moved closer. And here's where I want you to engage. Type Amen in the comments if you believe that karma always finds a way. And if you've ever watched someone powerful finally face the consequences of their actions, comment, finally, below. By now, the story had captured the attention of everyone, from family members to the media, to people across the world following every shocking detail. Headlines declared betrayal, survival, and justice. And while the groom may have once thought himself untouchable, the world now watched as his empire of arrogance began to collapse. Stay with me because in the next segment, you will witness the final moments, the aftermath of this shocking betrayal, the full measure of justice delivered, and the lasting impact on the bride's life. This is the conclusion, the point where the story comes full circle, and the lesson of karma is undeniable. And so, the story comes full circle. The yacht that once promised romance and luxury had become the stage for betrayal, danger, and ultimately, justice. The bride, shaken but stronger than ever, survived not only the waves of the ocean, but the storm of deceit and cruelty that had been set against her. The groom, a man who had once believed himself untouchable, faced the consequences of every selfish, arrogant, and dangerous choice he had made. Karma, patient but relentless, had arrived. A reminder that no amount of wealth or power can shield someone from the truth. Take a moment to reflect on this story. Think about the choices we make, the trust we give, and the consequences that follow. It's a reminder that betrayal, no matter how cleverly concealed, cannot remain hidden forever. And sometimes, justice comes in ways we could never predict. And before we end, I want to hear from you. What would you have done in her shoes? Could you have survived, or would fear have overtaken you? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you believe karma always finds a way, type Amen. I want to see how many of you feel the power of justice. If you've been captivated by this story and want more shocking tales of betrayal, survival, and karma, make sure to subscribe to True Crime Mysteries, hit that notification bell, and share this video with friends who love stories that leave them on the edge of their seat. Remember, every story we tell is more than just events. It's a journey through human choices, consequences, and the undeniable truth that justice in some form always finds a way. Thank you for watching. Stay vigilant, stay curious, and never forget, even in paradise, danger can lurk, and karma has a way of arriving when you least expect it.